Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Ryan with Gamertag Dad, and today we're looking at some PvP. This is the first time I've ever dabbled in some PvP, and I finally got my connection sorted, which has been perfect because I no longer lag around. Now the weapon I've gone ahead and selected is the Rotten Duelist Hammer. This isn't a weapon that's really known for being the best in the game. I really like it because I personally think they look really cool, so I've gone ahead and dual wielded them, and actually very surprised with how well this hits. This does actually have a S rating in strength if you do go ahead and spec it into heavy, which in honesty I have because this is a pure strength build. I've got 60 vigor and 80 strength and enough endurance not to be fat rolling everywhere. Now you would really be using different armor for this to boost your poise up to 101. However, I've kind of gone for the fashion side of this and a medium load, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. The build for me is primarily focused around jump attacks. Now, if you're fully buffed and you go ahead and land a jump attack and that armor isn't massive, you're going to be two-shotting them. You're going to land your heavy attack, and then once you do the follow-up attack, they're going to drop. Now, you have the ability to grant Scarlet Rot on your target. It's kind of why I'm wearing the mushroom helmet, because if you land the Scarlet Rot you get a nice attack boost. This weapon did take me a little while to get into the swing of it, ignore the pun there, but it did take a little while to get to a point where you could two-shot people. It does take a little bit of skill, and timing is essential. You'll start to watch your opponent, or at least I found, kind of how they play. Whereas the fellow I'm playing now changed his build a little bit later on and would always do, I think it was 2 swings, then he would stop, which was kind of my time to strike. We did fight, I think 3 or 4 times, literally back to back to back, and they had some very interesting builds. I believe there's a crossbow section coming up soon, which was brilliant. And kind of a shout out to him as well, because when I was buffing up and then he would be buffing up, we would just give each other the seconds, the 10-15 seconds, whatever it took. There was always the bowing. There was, I guess, a lot of respect when it came down to the PvP side. Now, I've never experienced PvP before, or when I have, it's never been brilliant. Now, there seems to be an unwritten rule within the Colosseum that you let your opponent do what they need to do to get ready for the fight. We do have some buffs for this build. In our physic, we had the strength not tier to give us that boost of strength. You could argue we could drop our strength to 70, boost those stats elsewhere would also work, because you would get the 10 plus boost from that, which would take you to the 80 for the next cap. Now we also have the faith not tier, which gives us an additional 10 faith, which allows us to use Golden Vow. I didn't use it in every single fight, but once you've stacked it with your Flame Grant Me Strength, your Braggarts Roar, and your Golden Vow, you're going to be hitting like a truck. And if you can proc Scarlet Rot as well, you're also going to get that other nice little boost. And if you have the Raw Medallion on, it stacks well with your Braggarts Roar, which then it gives you increased damage as well. So overall, it's brilliant. You get a lot of damage negation with this build, with the Braggarts Roar and with Flame Grant Me Strength. Alright, it's not as big damage negation as it would be in PvE. There's always a nerf when it comes to PvP. But you take it and it keeps you alive a little bit longer, especially because this isn't a very robust armor setup. Now, I should have dropped 10 points from strength and put them into endurance, because this would have given me a lot more room to play with. You can also swap out your talismans. If you're going for 101 poise, you could put the Bull Goat's talisman on, which would be perfect because it gives you a nice, well, not a nice boost, it's a massive boost into your poise. Now, our opponent switched to the crossbow build, which kind of gave me glimpses and a feel like it was from Van Helsing, which is a film if you've never seen it before. It's basically about vampire slaying. And it kind of gave me a Vampire Slayer feel. Now, I may do a roleplay build of that at some point, but I really liked it. I know I've said it already, he was brilliant to fight against. It was just enjoyable, and it was nice to get him constantly. And yeah, it was just fun to do. The great part of this build is how hard it hits. Now, there is a slight weakness to it, and the weakness would be recovery. Because once you swing and once you miss, then you are a little bit exposed, and especially if they've got slightly longer range weapons like he has here with a spear, It does leave you a little bit exposed, but as you see there, I hit for 1,000, and earlier on I think I hit for 1,200, hit again there for another 700, and essentially two-shot him and bring him down. If you can get close enough and you can just hit them at that perfect moment, you are going to wreck them. Now here's the next round of fights against them. This is the first time we came up against each other, and this was my first experience in the Colosseum without lag. Now it was something stupid like my Ethernet cable, I was running off of Wi-Fi, switched to Ethernet, and then the lag went instantly. I had some great clips, but they were horrifically laggy, so you know, we didn't bother with that. But you can see here we hit really hard, and this is me sussing out the build and how it should really work. Now, you're never going to outswing someone with this build. If you're coming up against someone that has a very quick hitting weapon, whether it's a dagger, a katana, or even some of the swords in this game are so quick. These hammers are so slow, especially if you're dual wielding them. It's not a quick move, and you do hit incredibly hard, but obviously the downside with that is you leave yourself massively exposed. The thing that I really loved about doing this is just the versatility when it came to our talisman choices. Now, I stupidly have got the Shard of Alexander on, which served me zero purpose to this, and for anyone that doesn't know, the Shard of Alexander does not cover your Braggarts Raw. The Raw Medallion does, but not your shard. So if you don't want the shard on, or you're not going to be using a different Ash of War, get rid of the shard, and you could put on some damage negation. Again, you need to remember that the damage negation is a lot less in PvP, but it's still something, especially if your armor is a lot lower and a lot weaker than say your opponents and they're hitting you pretty hard. Again, with the poise you need 101 ideally if you don't want to constantly get staggered, but for me, I didn't really find it that essential with this build because most of the time we were sprinting in, jumping and slapping him, or slapping the floor. If you landed a square on hit, you were definitely wrecking 6/8 or, you know, 3/4 of their health, however you want to look at it. Coming up against a shield was interesting. We did manage to stagger them at least a few times, and I was experimenting with the charged attacks. It just kind of really depends on what your opponent is like, how quick they are, what their Ash of War is, and that whatever he's throwing out there really caught me off guard a few times. Now, if there is anything within these PvP videos that I'm doing horrifically wrong, please just pop it in the comment section below and let me know what I'm doing wrong, and I will go ahead and make that change. I'm always up for constructive feedback so I can make major improvements to PvP. I do want to start doing PvP. My plan is to continue with the builds. However, I do also want to do some PvP. I thoroughly enjoy it, and now my lag's gone. It's something I can finally do. It was something I just didn't have the patience for. It was horrendously jumpy and became almost unplayable. But if you do, like I said, find anything, just let me know in the comment section below. If you have made it this far and you aren't subscribed, then go ahead and drop a little sub down for me. It helps me tremendously, and even a like, because it helps push the PvP content and other videos out to a larger audience for anyone that is looking for some more Elden Ring gameplay. I know a lot of us are just waiting for the DLC to be released, or at least announced of when it's coming out, but on a quick there, you will see he drops to the floor because I managed to get off the Scarlet Rot. I did die first, but hey, counted as an elimination I believe, so it was technically a point to me as well. But yes, I'm waiting for the DLC, and from what I can imagine it's going to be huge. I think we just need to get our Armoured Core out of the way first for that to be released, and then I'm pretty sure they're going to drop some type of trailer or another teaser, because we've already had one teaser picture, but that seems to be about it. Hoping it's going to be, what, 40-50% of the normal game size, so this could be massive. I am going to be touching more into PvP as well. I know I've mentioned this a few times, but we are going to be doing different builds each time. We're not going to be continuing with the Rotten Duelist hammers. If there is a weapon you want to see, or even kind of a roleplay you want to see within PvP, then just drop it down below, because I would love to go ahead and make them. We have almost everything in the game, so we can just go ahead and build what we want without much problem. And I do need to start working on using the quick actions, because I'm definitely wasting a lot of time by not using them. Obviously you have like your health and everything down as a quick action, but I should be throwing things in my pouches and using it there. or even just holding down triangle and selecting the health through that way. It would save me a lot of time just rolling through the potions, but the older I've got, the slower I've got, and the harder it is for me to learn. Even though I know what I'm doing wrong, I just don't seem to be fixing it. Right, going back to the fight itself, we've gone ahead here and actually got the victory, which was brilliant, because I wasn't doing particularly that well, but I did absolutely school them towards the end there. I say school, that's a bit disrespectful, but I did do a little bit better at the end there. Now we go ahead and throw down the respected bow and throw up some buffs, and they were brilliant, like I said before, because they just allowed me to do it. I've definitely been in a few fights where they've not allowed you to do anything, and as you're throwing down your golden vow, which is slow to cast, if anyone's using it, you know how slow this thing is, and they come up behind you and stab you in the back, or swing at you, or throw a rock at your head and knock you out, which isn't ideal. And there does seem to be some type of hidden rule that you should let your opponent buff up and do what they need to do, otherwise it's a pretty lame fight, because they're kind of half cut, because some of these builds do require very specific buffs, otherwise they're terrible. This one, for example, you could definitely tell the difference between a fully buffed hammer and an unbuffed hammer. Fully buffed being Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Braggarts Roar kicked out, again with the Raw Medallion kicking in for that. It makes a huge difference. You were hitting for a few hundred extra. Now we are playing at 150, which is how I do all my builds now and all my guides and all my videos, because it seems to be a level where people are really happy at playing it. Now I do have a higher level account, which eventually, maybe in a few weeks, a few months, whenever we decide, we may dabble in higher end content, whether that's higher end bossing or even quote unquote maxed account, where we essentially are just running pure 80s on everything, because 80 is the last soft cap, and once you get above that it's really negligible. When it turns to upgrades, it's not really worth the time investment to go ahead and get those extra levels. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop talking here and just let you enjoy the rest of the PvP. For anyone that has got this far, thank you very much, I do appreciate you. Again, if you have got this far, don't forget to drop a comment and a like and a sub down below. It helps me, and the engagement really helps with the channel, and I'll be honest, I do love replying to the comments. Again, any constructive feedback, let me know. But there we go, 2-shot again, jump, land, dead. Brilliant little combo. Now I'll let you get on. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.